Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hi, everybody.
Greetings and salutations on this memorable day.
Very, very distinguished, auspicious
Yes.
day. Our 100th episode.
Podcast, wow.
Podcast, and that doesn't include vlogs.
No, just our podcast, which we never really sort of planned on doing. We just said, why don't we do a podcast once we'd
So we don't have to wear makeup and worry about our hair.
Exactly.
Well, actually, it came about because I thought, when we do vlogs, we do themes. Mm-hmm. But every week we think, but we would want to tell them about that and that. And so we decided to kind of make something that would just be a weekly update of what you should be watching. And I've been really enjoying it.
Me too.
So I don't know about all you guys, but we've been enjoying it.
Yes, we have, and I hope you have too.
Unfortunately, for our 100th episode, TV did not do what I wanted it to do, which is give us 100% written and directed by women.
You're such a dreamer.
But we tallied 9 times shows, out of which written or co-written by a woman. 19. 14, which is 73% written or co-written. That's
Fantastic.
Pretty good. And 7 directed, which is 37%.
Still not bad.
I think this, going back to our first podcast, I think these are much better stats.
Oh my God, yes, and we do get twofers a lot. We do get both writers and directors. We get very excited.
We do. We're nerds. So we're going to tell you about 3 things to watch, and then the way that we're going to mark this special 100th podcast. We have 2 ways of doing that. The first is we have a little bit of a Q&A. I wrote on Instagram that you can send us questions, and some of you did, and so we're going to answer the questions, including...
To the best of our ability.
Including the major question that every time that I put a Q&A out there, I'm always asked the same question, which is, how did we meet? So we're going to finally tell it again.
Well, Liron came to visit me in an old age home, a senior living
Here's a teaser.
facility.
And then we have a beautiful, lovely poem that our darling follower Peter wrote for this special occasion. So that's all coming at the end of the episode. But first, we have some really good things to tell you about.
Yeah, stick around now.
Exactly. Our first movie review is for a movie that actually is coming out today. So for you, it will already be tomorrow. Or yesterday, I should say. It says it's coming out in theaters. I do hope that it's going to also be available on demand very
because
soon.
First of all, this is a very small film. I can't imagine people flocking
to
the movie theaters.
Yeah, it would have had, what do you call it?
A limited release.
A limited release as it is in the theaters. And I think it's a perfect movie to release on platforms to stream.
Absolutely, although there are some beautiful vistas of fields.
But everybody nowadays, almost everybody, unless you're watching on your phone, which, why would you do that? Most people have HD, something or other.
Absolutely, it looks beautiful.
It's called 4 Good Days, and it's not at all about The View. It's directed by Rodrigo Garcia, written by him and Eli Zaslow, who apparently is a Pulitzer Prize-winning Washington Post writer. And it's starring, it's a pas de deux between Glenn Close and Mila Kunis. And it's based on a true story. And it's all about addiction.
Yes. I mean, there are other people in it, but
who cares?
Basically the 2 of them.
It's really 99% of the film is the 2 of them, and almost all of it is about the 2 of them together. And it's about a mother and a daughter. The daughter is a heroin addict, among other things. And after many, many, many years, and anybody who's, had an addict in their family or in their close circle knows how desperate and helpless you can feel about this vicious cycle of addiction. And so after many years of the mother practically giving up on her daughter getting better, the daughter pleads for one last chance.
Yes. I mean, the mother's changed the locks. Last time
because she stole everything.
She stole everything, which is a story as old as addiction. I mean, really.
And this movie is kind of a genre movie in terms of the addiction rehabilitation genre,
It's
but
got a lot of the tropes.
Well,
but it's life.
But guess what? Exactly, it's how these things usually go. So the tropes are based on reality, but it also didn't. It's also a very unique film, and the way I feel about it, and I'm saying feel for a reason, because I really love movies about struggles of mental health. And I especially love movies about the mother-daughter relationship in that struggle. Mm-hmm. Freud might have something to say about that.
Yes, I think he might. But he had something to say about everything, and a lot of it was
but
wrong.
I didn't. Yeah, exactly. I didn't like everything he had to say about it. In this case, he may have been right. But I felt this movie very deeply. And, these kind of movies you can do very well and you can do very wrong. And I felt that this movie did it right.
Really, really well.
I think in large part, besides the fact that it was written beautifully and based on a true story, and you could sense that, it's the actresses.
The acting. Oh, my God. Both of them.
And I was telling you, Mila Kunis, I only knew her from, these little comedies. To hold your own in scenes with Glenn Close,
especially these drama heavy, difficult scenes to pull off.
I really applaud her. I have a new appreciation for her as an actress, and Glenn, of course, is just
magnificent.
I love her more with every movie I see her in. So. This was a really, really, really good film that stayed with me it's still with me. It stayed with me for a very long time. I highly recommend it, and you don't have to have addicts in your life to appreciate it or to be moved by it. So I really recommend it. It's called 4 Good Days, excellent acting, and a very, very good story.
Very fine film.
Another movie that opens April 30th and in select theaters on digital and on demand is a movie called Goliath. And the title pretty much gives away the essence of the story. Also, I'm thinking about the Amazon show called Goliath.
Goliath, yes. But this is quite different from that, even though it is a big guy.
Ultimately, that's
the
theme.
The little guy against the big guy.
Right. Ultimately, that's the theme. It's directed by Clark Johnson, written by Garfield Lindsay Miller and Hilary Pryor. And it's starring Christopher Walken, Zach Braff, and Christina Ricci, and
Roberta Maxwell.
Right. And this is a story, unfortunately, not as old as time, but as old as corporations. But if you go back, serfs and,
Yes.
Really, as long as there have been humans on Earth, there has been abuse of classes and people and
the huge haves who want to just
keep on having. Why do they have so much?
The Christopher Walken character is doing very well as a farmer. He's a third-generation farmer, right? Mm-hmm. It goes back in his family. I mean, they have practically ancient seeds.
Grains, yeah. Seeds, no, it's canola.
It was fascinating to me, too, to see the way they reuse their own seeds,
mm-hmm.
and
how they cultivate their own breeds.
They germinated seeds, and they did them in little grids inside their barn mm-hmm. to see which was doing the best under certain circumstances. It was very scientific in a very hands-on, low-tech kind of way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ancient wisdom that they've passed on from generation. How to do that.
Fascinating to me. The rest was just enraging.
And it's, again, a true story about a farmer who, this giant corporation...
Monsanto.
Right.
You might even have remembered some of this because it also has to do with Roundup, as well as the fight over the seeds and the patent.
Right. They claim that he's been using seeds that have been GMO'd by them, and so he owes them everything he has. And
the seeds blew off of someone's truck. They came through the air.
Way seeds travel. I mean, that's pretty much how nature does it. He never
bought them. He didn't steal them from anybody. They just landed in his field.
Right, but what's even worse, it's not even that was the worst thing about it. It's what these seeds do. When you realize what you eat, I mean, the things that these big corporations do to our food, it's poison by the time we consume it. And so this was small farming as opposed to giant corporations, as it is with all these stories about the little guy versus the huge corporation. Let me tell you, corporations are not people.
They are not people.
And actually,
believe me.
I wish
people do enable them and run them, and but they are soulless, as are the people who work for them.
There was this brilliant documentary I saw once. I think it was called Incorporated. If you can get your hands on it, that showed, okay, if corporations are people, like the Supreme Court claims, right? Then I
thought it was Mitt Romney who claimed that.
No, but they're officially considered people legally. So. I said, okay, if they're considered people, let's diagnose them by the DSM. And they turn out to be psychopaths.
Psychopaths, yes.
Corporations are psychopaths. So anyway, this is a story. It was a low-key film, but very impactful.
You know, Christopher Walken.
I'm walking here.
Yeah. I got Dustin Hoffman, but that's okay.
I always think about that though when I hear his name. It's a genre film, like, you know, most of these films about having to fight big corporations or big, you know, rich, whatever. But it was, we love the genre. I mean, and especially what I love about the genre, which I find very comforting, is that most of the time, you know, if they're making a movie about it, then we won. You know?
Yes, that's something you do sort of know. I mean,
I think it's important because otherwise the level of anxiety is too high.
Why would you put yourself through it?
Yes.
Exactly.
Because also...
It's enraging.
And that's the thing, because these are true stories. And when you realize, because it's not just, okay, so this little farmer had to fight this big corporation. First of all, this farmer was just a representative of many, 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 many other farmers. But also, it's all of us. We are all affected by what these corporations do. They control our lives. And, you know, there are 7 huge corporations that pretty much own everything, which means that when you consume your news and when you buy your, you know, washing machine, it's all leading, it all goes to the same place. So they influence everything you consume and how you consume it, which is very terrifying.
If someone dares to, especially another, like a farmer, stand up for the person who is suing them for their free will, they are then repaid by the corporations by coming and doing the same thing to them.
They squash them.
They
have the
like
money,
bugs.
they have the resources, they have the political influence. Not to mention, you know, we haven't even talked about lobbying. If you can see the movie Mrs. Sloan, a very good movie about lobbying.
And Jessica Chastain.
Yep, and you realize really how little you actually know about your own choices, and you think they're your own choices, but you've been, you know, led to make.
He has one lawyer who isn't even really that, you know, and one much of a litigator,
and one environmental justice
organization
activist. Yeah. Anyway, this is a very, very important story, I think, for all of us to know.
It's beautiful to look at. The Alberta. It's supposed to take place.
No, it's not Alberta. It takes place in
it's supposed to take place in Saskatchewan,
but they actually shot in Winnipeg.
Oh, in Winnipeg.
They shot in Winnipeg.
It's just gorgeous, the fields of the
Canadians were coming for you.
Yeah, boy.
Anyway, Goliath is available on various platforms now, and we recommend it. Finally, we didn't know that we'll like this. We'd like this show.
Fact, we didn't think we'd like it at all because we don't really like Christopher Maloney, and we never really
liked
Elliot Stabler. To me, he was always a millstone around.
I much preferred her in
Olivia's
the center of everything,
neck,
not having to share the spotlight.
So we weren't too thrilled when Law and Order: Organized Crime, starring Christopher Maloney, came on. But we found ourselves, to our immense surprise and delight, really liking the show. It's created by Eileen Chaikin.
Hello.
Along with, of course, Dick Wolf.
Eileen
Chaikin, and that does add a certain je ne croissant, as we used to say.
No. Anybody who speaks French, we do know that's not how you say it.
That's not the way it's said. But I don't know that it has anything to do with Eileen Chaikin, but it's very edgy. It's edgier than any of the Law and Orders. And it's not episodic. It's serialized.
Yeah.
It's one main story. That personal story that runs throughout, and It's starring Christopher Maloney, Danielle Monet Truitt, who plays. She's really his boss.
Yeah, she is, but they're kind of partners.
Yeah,
because she's aware that
she's a lesbian.
Yes, she's a lesbian woman of color.
Yes,
and
she's
I
wonderful.
like her very
we loved
much.
her very much. Tamara Taylor, who I love.
Mm-hmm.
You Bones fans will certainly know her. Dylan McDermott. And Charlotte Sullivan in a wonderful role, who you'll, if you were a fan of Rookie Blue, you'll remember her. She's done a few other things.
And she has actually played for 5 minutes and a half a lesbian on Rookie Blue,
That's
so
right.
you might know her.
That's right. And of course, Mariska makes
Many
appearances every week, I
yes.
think, so far. And anyway, Elliot comes back and he's been living in Europe. Right. And
I want to say also, by the way, when I heard that it was going to be about organized crimes, I thought,
that was another thing.
Who cares?
Yawn.
On SVU, it's personal. It's these crimes that we really care deeply about. Who cares about organized crime?
Well,
but what they were smart to do is make this one long story and give it the personal element to it. So.
And it has a lot to do with Elliot. He suffers a personal loss at the very beginning that drives him, also has driven him a little crazy. And he's obsessed. He
understandably,
yes. And his family has come back to New York with him, and there's various, family interactions. But the crime story is fascinating. Dylan McDermott is a real creep.
Yeah,
he is really creepy and disgusting in this. But
we're just surprised every week by how much we enjoy it.
It's deeply psychological. It's personal. It's human.
And there's a lesbian.
And there's a lesbian in it. Whoa, yes, which Law and Order has never been very high on.
Very good at, yes.
In any of their iterations.
Right.
So we really have to recommend it. Excellent show that I think you should give a whirl if it sounds interesting to you.
Yes, Law and Order Organized Crime is on Thursdays after SVU on NBC. Okay, you ready for some questions?
I guess so. I haven't heard any of them except for the one that I know we always are asked.
All right, well, first of all, okay, let's start with a kind of an easy one. The spitting scene in Disobedience, yay or nay?
Nay for me.
I know.
I mean, it didn't take away the fact that the scene was beautiful and that I loved it.
And it was interesting.
It was certainly
nothing I've ever seen before.
And nothing we'd ever seen before and hope never to see again. But it wasn't as disturbing to me as it was to many, many people.
No,
but I
could take it or leave it.
I would have been happy without it.
Yeah. I mean, I did find it to be an interesting thing to do. But,
certainly intimate.
And their chemistry was so off the charts that it wasn't in any way a turnoff. But I could have done without it too. Okay, memorable moment from meeting Libby Tanner. I'll tell you what, I mean, it was a very memorable time.
Yes.
But to me, going to see The Color Purple.
That was mine, too. Yeah. Really, it was going to take her to her first Broadway show.
And The Color Purple was so
Purple,
good.
which she and her friend and her daughter.
And I loved it.
I'd already seen it. This was my second viewing of it. She loved it. She was so excited. It was like a kid in a candy store, really. And that was very sweet. I liked that very much. We really enjoyed it.
I find that adding a musical to any event just heightens the
Absolutely. But she was very appreciative of it, and that was nice.
Yeah. Any in-home fights about best lesbian movie? I think we're pretty much in agreement.
Oh yeah, and anyway, we don't fight about those things.
First of all, yes. No, I mean, it's not necessarily a fight,
yeah.
but no, I think we agree that it's Carol.
Yeah, I think we agree it's Carol.
Okay. How long were we chatting before we realized our mutual love for Barbara? I don't know. It was pretty instant.
It was early on.
Because it's pretty central in both our lives. So.
Yes. And it's very central in both of our lives and has been since I was 16 years old. Lebron wasn't born yet. For many years. And that, for some reason or other, manifested itself very, very early. I can't tell you the exact time frame, but I'd say 1 or 2 conversations.
Probably. And And finally, there were many, many questions
Many.
about how we first met, our first kiss, our first date, when we realized this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. So I don't think we can answer every single one of those, but let's, okay, so...
You answer this, okay?
We'll tell you the story in general of how we met, because we are oftentimes asked that. And if you don't know the story, I guess it could seem a little odd that we come from two completely different worlds, different countries, different cultures, different age groups, different...
Yes, for those of you who have only listened to our podcast, there are 34 years between us, and I am the old one.
Well, only by age. So I guess it does seem odd. Like, how did you, of all the gin joints, you know?
Yeah.
So the story, the very abridged version of it, is that there was a soap opera called Guiding Light, and many of you who know Mimi from before this know that Mimi is the ultimate soap queen.
Yes, founding editor-in-chief of Soap Opera Weekly. I learned knew a lot about soaps.
Right, the soap expert. And Mimi was writing at the time a column for TV Guide Canada. I was writing a piece
of Nelson Branco's TV Guide column out of Canada. When Guiding Light was canceled, he let me write the Guiding Light section of his, like a guest contributor, because he was actually a protege of mine. And because he knew Guiding Light was my favorite and had the Otalia story, the lesbian story, he gave Guiding Light over to me. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I'd get notes from his editor. So
Mimi was writing the column. I didn't know Mimi. I was introduced to Otalia because they were the lesbian couple in Guiding Light. I quickly fell in love with Guiding Light itself. And that was the very, very, very early days of social media.
Yes, and I only went on because I had finally finished my photography website, and everybody said, you have to go on Facebook, you have to go on Twitter, you have to do social media in order to promote your work.
Right, and I was on social media with all the Otalia fan base. We were called the Big Purple Dreams. We started on a message board, and then we moved to social media, especially Twitter. And so we would just spend all this time on Twitter, chatting and stuff. And one day...
It was a real community.
It was an amazing community that actually ended up producing quite a few marriages.
Divorces.
Women who left their husbands, who left their long-term relationships, who moved countries, who... I mean, really.
It was really some kind of a crazy phenomenon.
It was a beautiful phenomenon.
Yes.
And many of those couples are still together, and many of those couples are married now, and many of them are still our friends.
Yep.
And we've had the privilege and joy of meeting several of them. So
I wrote something nice, as I often did, about the Otalia storyline, and Crystal
Chappelle, who was
one of the leads, as most of you will know, came on to Twitter and said, "How much do we love Mimi Torch?"
And she tagged her,
and she tagged me.
And so I thought, right, well, Crystal.
All of a sudden, I had another 1,000 followers.
Crystal's mentioning Mimi Torch, and maybe I should check this chick out. So I go and I click the follow button, and that was it for a while. You were in my feed every now and then, but I didn't even really pay attention. And then one night,
I didn't spend a lot of time there.
One night you said something that somehow correlated with something that I was eating broccoli at midnight, something I tended to do. Anyway, and I tweeted you, and I said something, and you tweeted me back, and we started talking a little bit. Actually, I just fished out those tweets, those early tweets.
Oh my God, you have them?
Oh, I do.
Oh, dear.
I do. And we started talking. And then what would happen is, because I was in Israel and Mimi was in America, we had 7-hour difference between us. So Mimi would go to sleep, and I would get up in the morning and tweet. And by the time she got up, she would get to her,
because I had started following her
Twitter feed and see a gazillion tweets from me. Now Mimi, being a senior,
the novice, no, not being a senior. I wasn't a senior at the time officially.
Was under the misapprehension that whoever she follows. Everybody can see everything that I was tweeting. All of our followers could see all of my tweets, and so she decided.
That's too many tweets.
So she decided to unfollow me. She decided to unfollow me, but she would unfollow me, and like a few hours later, she would miss me and want to follow me again. So we were doing this back and forth a little bit, and then we started DMing.
I actually did we DM first?
Yes,
we DM'd, and then we went to email.
Yes, and Mimi gave me her B email.
My B email.
The email she gives to spam.
Not to spam, but not to...
to solicitors and people who solicit funds and donations. Anyway,
that lasted for about a day.
For about a day and a half, and then we quickly moved on to video chatting, phone calls first, then video chatting, and then in October, this started in July of 2009, and then in October, the last luncheon of Guiding Light was going to take place, and also Crystal was having her own luncheon, and I wasn't really going to go, but somebody told Mimi that I was coming and not telling her. And she was really upset because she thought I was trying to ditch her. But I said, no, I'm not coming. And then she said, well, you should come, and you can stay in my apartment.
I was on the Vineyard at the time. My former partner.
I said, okay, well, I was going to go to London, which I was doing every 2 to 3 months back then. I can just kind of come from there. And so I came, and I went to the Guiding Light luncheon. I went to Crystal's luncheon. And
I came and visited for a week and
that was it. That was pretty much it. So when you ask, when did we know that this is the person that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives? Well, I'll tell you what I did know that weekend. When I came, after that, those 10 days or however much time that I spent in New York, I came back to Israel, and I knew that I missed you too much. And so at that point, we started moving towards
figuring something out.
Right. Me coming here. And when I came in 2010, I came to see how it would be to live together, what it would be like to live together.
I had broken up and
moved out,
although it was a very hard process. Finding an apartment.
It was not a happy relationship. I want everybody to know.
It's just a lot of...
I didn't break a happy home. I was actually, many of your friends are always appreciate that I brought you back to life. But anyway, so when I came here, then it was to see what it would be like to live together, and I think it worked from the very first moment.
I went to visit you for a month.
You did, for a month in Israel. At the end of 2009. That was great. So that's pretty much it. Even though, again, we have all these years between us, and supposedly the difference in cultures.
No, we have the same culture.
We really don't. We really don't find a lot that we don't have in common.
No, and our age difference doesn't seem to be an issue at all.
And when we found out that we both love Barbara, that was it.
That was it, right? Yes.
So that's the story of how we met.
And here we are, 11 years later.
Yes, and if you had been around, you would have been able to see since they asked about our first kiss. If you'd been able to see the bubble tweet.
Oh my God!
Okay, I have to tell that story just really quickly.
I hate it.
So back then, when we knew that, because Mimi had quite a few followers and I had quite a few followers, and so when people realized that we were going to get together and that we were having this kind of online affair.
We weren't very subtle.
I think they realized it before we did.
Probably.
But they were invested in seeing where our relationship would go. And at that time, we had at least 2 people who were lying to us about having cancer. But we didn't know that they were lying to us. And so in the effort of raising funds and all that stuff, we said, okay, if some people, Melissa Etheridge, I think at the time, was doing the Run for Life thing. Yeah. And so we said, I don't like running. I like kissing. Why don't we do Kiss for Life? And then people said, okay, so if you do a bubble tweet with you kissing, we will raise funds. So we said, okay, if we raise $2,000 for breast cancer, we'll do it. And I think we raised $2,200. And so when I came to New York, the first thing we did was to...
Oh my God.
And I don't even think people know...
Dismay.
I think people don't even know what a bubble tweet is now, because it lasted about 3.5 minutes. But it was...
Well, the kiss wasn't 3.5 minutes. Bubble
the kiss was pretty long, though. It was a $2,200 worth of kiss. Anyway.
If you're interested. If not, it was just like...
No, I mean...
What is this beautiful young girl kissing that old woman for?
No, I mean, we really tried to give it our best to justify the amount. But anyway, so that's it. That's the story.
That's our sex tape.
That's a That's a very, very brief version of our story. So thank you for asking all these questions. And now, Peter, thank you so much for sending this lovely, beautiful piece to mark
Peter.
Our 100th episode. And here it is.
Peter has been so lovely and loyal, and he's a wonderful, wonderful man, and we're so fond of him. We don't have many men followers,
As it turns
but
out, we have more than we thought.
do, absolutely. And the ones we have are really choice.
Yes.
They're really great.
So this is the 100th.
The 100th.
And it's a play in words because there was the 100, the series, the 100 that had the Klexa in it, that bury the gay, kill the lesbian. And so that's a tribute to that.
Liron and Mimi, the tour guides, explorers, enlighteners, and spearheading women who have taken us on this journey into the relevance, oppression, and discovery of women in the art of film. They have taken 100 trips with and for us into the landscape of films, where sometimes women are given parts to keep them in the shadows, and more recently, parts where they can truly shine and breathe in the light. They have pointed us in the direction of those diamonds in the shadows and those bonfires of fully realized women on the screen. Their commitment to bring to the light the space these characters inhabit is tenacious. The way they go above and beyond to bring them to our attention must truly be a labor of love and a desire to right the injustices that many women have endured. If only others would give support and truth to those around them, as they do every week, the world would be a more diverse and inclusive place. After 100 episodes, I can truly say that I look forward to, feel at home and safe in the space they have made. I would truly be honored if you would read this on the occasion of your 100th episode. Well, Peter,
we are honored that you wrote it for us.
We are so honored that you wrote this for us, and such beautiful sentiments I hope we deserve. And thank you very much for your kindness and your friendship.
And thank you all for the 100 episodes you spent with us. And here's to at least 100 more.
Oh, I hope so.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot. Now, see if you all know what cheers, thanks a lot is from.
You get a cookie?
No, you don't get anything, but you'd love to know if you know what it's one of my favorite shows of all time.
Bye.
Bye.